Most people believe feeding raw is a luxury. They imagine it as something reserved for people with designer kitchens or something. Boutique freezers, maybe. Or even endless disposable income. They picture specialty websites, subscription boxes, and price tags that feel intimidating before you even click the product. And because that image has been repeated so often, it quietly shapes our behavior. People assume raw food is expensive. People assume they cannot afford it, or that they must settle for something else. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If you can afford dog food, you can afford to feed your dog its ideal canine diet. Hello, fellow packmates. This is Jennifer Steckel from the Direwolf Project, where science meets the Ice Age. We're the only breeding program in the world recreating the exact bone and body structure of the extinct prehistoric dire wolf. Not for the wild, but for your loving family den, using only domesticated dog breeds. I've been raising these incredible American Dirus dogs for over 20 years, delivering 73 litters and over 400 loyal pups to the world. You want to track upcoming litters or see which puppies are ready to join your pack? Join the inner circle at direwolfproject.com. If you love prehistoric pups and pack-centered wisdom, give us a like, hit subscribe, and let's step out of the den together. If you believe you cannot afford raw, there is a strong chance you are already paying for something far more expensive. You are just paying for it later. You're paying for it through chronic skin infections, recurring ear problems, dental disease, arthritis, metabolic disorders, kidney failure, diabetes, immune dysfunction, and cancer. This video exists to dismantle one of the biggest myths in modern dog nutrition. Raw feeding is not expensive, but neglecting canine biology can be pretty expensive. Once you understand how dog food pricing actually works, the illusion collapses. Let's begin with the core misunderstanding. When people say raw food is expensive, they are usually not talking about just the meat. They are talking about commercially packaged raw products that include freeze drying, air drying, proportioning, packaging, branding, shipping, and marketing. They are reacting to convenience products. They are not really reacting to the actual ingredients, because those are two very different things. Every dog food price tag is driven by three forces. The first is convenience. How much work does the company remove from your hands? The second is labor. Who is doing the sourcing, grinding, mixing, balancing, forming, drying, freezing, packaging, storing, and shipping the food? Who's doing all of that? The third is ingredient quality. Are those calories coming primarily from animal tissue, or are they actually coming from cheap carbohydrate fillers? Once you view dog food through this lens, pricing stops feeling mysterious. You actually begin to see exactly what you are paying for and what you are not paying for. Let's walk through the major dog food categories using this framework. Dry kibble sits at the extreme convenience end of the spectrum. It stores at room temperature for months or years. It pours easily. It travels easily. It requires almost no effort. Most mid-range kibble currently falls between $2 and $4 per pound. Premium kibble falls between $4 and $7 per pound. That means many households feeding kibble are already spending $46 or even $80 per bag. What that money primarily buys is industrial processing, extrusion equipment, packaging, shipping weight, and marketing. It does not primarily buy, though, meat. It does not primarily buy organs. And it certainly does not primarily buy moisture, okay, because it's dry kibble. Canned diets usually land somewhere between $3 and $6 per pound. They include moisture, which is beneficial, but they remain heavily processed and still rely on carbohydrate structure and synthetic fortification. A significant portion of the price reflects the can itself, the water content, and the cost of shipping heavy containers. Fresh or gently cooked subscription foods climb even higher. Most of these fall between $6 and $12 per pound. You are paying for cooking time, proportioning by the company, and the need for the company to refrigerate. You're also paying for customized packaging, insulated shipping, and customer service infrastructure, because they have to make sure that that food matches your dog's needs. Some ingredient quality improves, but convenience remains high. That means cost rises accordingly with the ingredient quality. Dehydrated and air-dried foods usually land between $6 and $10 per pound on a dry weight basis. These products use lower heat than kibble and preserve more original ingredients, which is a positive. However, you are still paying for the drying equipment, the energy usage, the packaging, and the shelf-stable engineering convenience. Freeze-dried raw. Okay, now we're in the raw section. Remember we talked about that last week. Freeze-dried raw climbs even higher in price because they are $10 to $18 per pound, and that is common. This category, though, preserves raw structure, which is the ideal format for a dog, but it also involves extremely expensive machinery and energy-intensive processing. And the price reflects that convenience that the consumer has, which is far more than ingredient cost. You're paying for convenience, mostly with a freeze-dried raw product. Now we arrive at frozen commercial raw, which usually falls between $4 and $7 per pound. Here, the food is primarily ground meat, organs and bone, with minimal processing beyond grinding and freezing. Here's where you should notice something important. As processing decreases, well, the price drops. As food moves closer to its natural form, the cost often falls rather than rises, which leads us to the category almost nobody talks about, honestly. Owner-sourced prey model raw. This means you buy meat yourself. You source the chicken quarters, who often range from about $1 to $2 per pound, but I even found it for cheaper than that. Turkey necks commonly fall between $1 and half to $2.50 per pound. Pork shoulder frequently ranges from $2 to $3 per pound. Beef heart commonly sits around $2.50 to $3.50 per pound. Beef liver often ranges from $2 to $3 per pound. When blended appropriately, most people can build a prey model raw meal in the neighborhood of $2 to $4 per pound. That is equal to or cheaper than premium dry kibble. Often cheaper than canned food, significantly cheaper than gently cooked, and dramatically cheaper than freeze-dried raw, which is the most convenient raw food. It's not as expensive as people think. Whole prey would be rabbits, quail, chicken, and other feeder prey, typically that range between $2 and $5 per pound, depending on the source and the region. Again, close to owner-sourced raw. Now let's zoom out. At this point, a pattern should be obvious to you. The foods that look the most expensive are the ones with the most processing and convenience layered on top of it. The foods that look intimidating are not expensive, but none of that has anything to do what a dog biologically requires, okay? There is another cost too that most people never place on their budget. Veterinary care driven by nutritional deficits. Chronic ear infections can cost hundreds of dollars per year. Dental cleanings often range from $400 to over $1,000 per procedure. Allergy management can cost $40 to $100 per month. Arthritis medications and joint structure often exceed $600 per year. Kidney disease management can reach several $1,000s annually. Cancer treatment frequently reaches 5 figures. These are not rare outliers, okay? They're not random. They are now routine health conditions. Feeding against biology does not eliminate its cost, okay? It actually displaces your cost. You can pay for the food, or you can pay for the medicine along with the cheap option. One option tends to be cheaper over time, right? You get to choose which currency you prefer to spend.
Want to meet more of our amazing American Dirus dogs? This video right here highlights their amazing personalities. Don't miss it.